important place to play, or a role to play. But I've become convinced very strongly that the most powerful way to change brain chemistry is through food, because that's where the brain chemicals come from in the first place. And I think all of us would agree that food must play some role. We may also agree that this so-called SAD diet, the standard American diet, which is very high in ultra-processed foods, is probably not very good for the brain. It's certainly hazardous for the rest of the body. Why should the brain be any different? But I think where we might come to some heated disagreements and passionate discussion is what should we eat instead of the standard American diet? Which dietary changes are most worth making and why? There's no consensus around that question. We have lots of opinions. We have, so for example, there are two relatively new subspecialties within the field of psychiatry. In the past 10 years or so, the field of modern nutritional psychiatry is a field established, this term was coined by Dr. Felice Jacka, a nutritional psychology researcher at the Deakin University in Australia. And the thought leaders, most of the thought leaders in the field of nutritional psychiatry recommend the Mediterranean diet over the standard American diet. Now, I consider myself a nutritional psychiatrist because nutritional psychiatrists believe that the decline in our global mental health is largely related to the decline in the decline in the quality of the modern diet. So I absolutely 100% agree with that. So nutritional psychiatrists, for the most part, focus on the Mediterranean diet, and with good reason. There is actually excellent data on the Mediterranean diet, particularly for clinical depression. There are several randomized controlled trials now showing that if you switch from a standard American diet to the Mediterranean diet, you can significantly improve symptoms of depression. But just because the Mediterranean diet is better than the standard American diet for the brain does not necessarily mean that it's the best diet for the brain. And there are several reasons to think that it may not be. Now, there's an even newer branch of psychiatry called metabolic psychiatry, and this was a term coined by Dr. Shivani Sethi, who's here this week from Stanford. Metabolic psychiatrists are interested less in the nutritional quality of the diet and more in the metabolic quality of the diet, meaning that we are, and I also consider myself a metabolic psychiatrist, we are interested in the metabolic roots of mental illness. In other words, how does the diet that people are eating provide the brain with energy? And we are primarily interested in the ketogenic diet because it energizes the brain so differently from every other diet. And somehow we've gotten away, I don't know how this happened, we've escaped defining what a ketogenic diet is. It's already Wednesday, conference is almost over, but let me just rectify that. So I think a good definition is any way of eating that lowers insulin levels enough to turn on fat burning and generate clinically meaningful levels of ketones in the blood. Most people would say that that begins at around 0.5 millimole beta hydroxybutyrate. Now, it doesn't have to be a low-carb diet. You can get intermittently into ketosis using intermittent fasting. You can get into ketosis using a very low-calorie diet, even if it's high in carbohydrate. But a ketogenic diet allows you to stay in ketosis without fasting and without caloric restriction. So typically it is very low in carbohydrate, moderate in protein, not excessive in protein, and obtains most of its calories from fat as opposed to carbohydrate.